Welcome back. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer signing off on 3 subpoenas yesterday, ordering Hunter Biden, James Biden, and Rob Walker to appear for on-the-record testimony. Hunter's lawyer is slamming Comer, claiming that this is another, quote, political stunt, but also saying that Hunter is, quote, eager to publicly speak to the committee. Comer also requesting transcribed interviews from James Biden's wife, Sarah Biden, President Biden's daughter-in-law, Hallie Biden, Hallie Biden's older sister, Hunter Biden's wife, Melissa Cohen, and former Biden business partner, Tony Bobulinski. Joining me right now is South Carolina Congressman Russell Fries, a member of the House Oversight and Judiciary Committees. Congressman, thanks very much for being here. Tell us more about these subpoenas and what specifically you want these people to answer.
Well, I think the subpoenas have gone out. I think more are certainly on the way. What's really important here is that at the end of November and through December, these depositions will take place as originally scheduled right now. What I'm really concerned with is the layer of payments, what services were provided, and why this complicated series of transactions that took place. It looks like and smells like and has since the very beginning an effort to cover up the tracks of what these are intended to do. And I'm really concerned about U.S. policy being shaped by how much cash you're giving to the Biden family.
No, I think it's a great point. Have you been able to identify policy changes that Joe Biden made as a result of being paid for them? I know that as soon as he walked into the Oval Office, for example, one of the first things he did was cancel the China initiative, which actually was quite effective in terms of arresting people who were sending intellectual property to communist China. Do you have any specific areas where you believe Joe Biden changed policies because he was paid?
Well, I think the clearest example is Ukraine, where the prosecutor was fired. Excuse me. I also think that there was a Russian oligarch who was not sanctioned. There was a meeting that took place at Cafe Milano here in Washington, D.C., and then when President Biden becomes president and these sanctions happen with Russia, this oligarch was not on the list. There was also a company, a facial recognition company, that didn't seem to go through the proper channels when it was purchased by a Chinese Communist Party entity. I think these are all entities or transactions that I would like to personally explore.
Wow. Okay. So he was enabling, in that last example, enabling China to make an acquisition, no questions asked, didn't have to go to important CFIUS reviews, perhaps making it easier for communist China to get a foothold in America. I want to get your take on what happened with David Weiss, or what will happen. Hunter Biden's special counsel, David Weiss, appearing before the House Judiciary Committee this week, he told lawmakers that the Department of Justice refused to give him special attorney status. But he also insisted that the decision-making was not interfered with, Congressman. What is your takeaway from the Weiss testimony?
Well, the biggest takeaway was that he requested special attorney status under Section 515 in the spring of 2022 and wasn't given special counsel authority until just August of this year. I think that's a huge timeline. This investigation has been going on for 4 or 5 years at this point. But to have a U.S. attorney that says that he had the authority, but never seemed to actually have the authority to do the case as he saw fit. Yeah. He had to go and run the traps in Washington, D.C., or run the traps in the Central District of California and ask for these U.S. attorneys to partner with him. That's still of grave concern to me.
So what do you think is going on here? That the Biden family has been influence peddling the brand, the Biden brand, accepting money for it, enriching themselves, and the DOJ is covering it up?
I think that's, having served on both the oversight and judiciary, that seems to be kind of the two tracks of this case. On the one hand, you have the transactions themselves and their connection to the Biden family. And on the flip side of that equation is the cover-up by the DOJ and the FBI. Look, they didn't want to investigate a storage facility with tax records. They didn't want to call him Hunter Biden or Joe Biden. They wanted to call him different pseudonyms. They didn't chase down the FD 1023. There's a litany of things that they failed to do, even knowing that the information was out there. So that is deeply troubling to me, to members of the committee, and quite frankly, to the American people.
Here's Tiana.
Congressman, one of the most brazen parts of this cover-up of these alleged crimes is the DOJ's special plea deal that they tried to give Hunter Biden, right? Because Hunter Biden made it clear before the judge that bravely threw the plea deal out that his understanding was that it would protect him from further investigation, not just into these tax charges and these gun charges, but also the possibility that he was acting as an unregistered foreign agent. Will Hunter Biden's testimony help elucidate the depth of what the negotiations between the Biden legal team and the DOJ were? And will the DOJ be compliant in helping understand what they intended the terms of that plea agreement to mean?
Well, I hope that it is enlightening for us on the committee and for the American people. I mean, I think at the end of the day, you really look at the sweetheart deal. They didn't really want to do this, and there was no jail time. There was not even a real plea at the end of the day. And what is really discouraging to me is that they allowed the statute of limitations to run on multiple years, mostly related to the Burisma executive stuff. That is really troubling when you look at it, is that a law enforcement agency is really acting as defense counsel, quite frankly.
Yeah, it's all troubling, as is his weak response to the anti-Semitism spiking across our country. Jewish students testifying before the House Judiciary Committee yesterday, and they were feeling silenced and threatened on college campuses. However, the students could not even speak freely on Capitol Hill. Their testimony was repeatedly interrupted by anti-Israel protesters shouting ceasefire and accusing politicians of silencing pro-Palestinian students. Congressman, what happened here, and what is your assessment of this White House's response to the anti-Semitism we're all watching?
I think it's deeply ironic that in a hearing about free speech on college campuses, that there were protests that would not allow the hearing to take place for quite some time. But you look at this is a repeated pattern by the left on these college campuses. These students bravely stood up yesterday. They spoke about what they were facing, and I think the facts don't lie. We've seen this, unfortunately, for the last several years, that these students, particularly conservative students, don't have the ability to speak freely or are suppressed in some way. It is deeply troubling, and quite frankly, the administration's response on these college campuses is pretty abhorrent.
All right, Congressman, we're going to keep a spotlight on it. Thanks very much for all that you're doing, and we'll keep watching your work.
Thank you.
Congressman Russell Fry.